you did one tour in Iraq,
One tour.
and you were wounded
I was.
in Iraq.
Yep.
Do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
We were in the Battle of Fallujah, part 2. There was an initial one in the spring, and then again in the fall, and we were incorporated into the offensive in the fall. At which point, again, my platoon was actually reunited as an entire platoon, and so I was able to utilize them in the capacity that I'd been trained to as a lieutenant. Now I'd been promoted to captain at this point, but was really grateful for the opportunity to have all those guys together. But we were providing mobility for Marine infantry units moving forward into the assault into the city in order to retake the city. And during one of our routine patrols, we met enemy resistance out on the street, got into a firefight with them. And then I was shot through, I guess, what you would call the abdominal cavity, but I had a 7.62 round enter my right hip and exit through kind of like my upper left butt cheek area.
So that happens. What's going through your mind? I mean, tell us. You had to get taken immediately to the medic, or?
So we had a corpsman embedded in our unit. He's a great guy and a great medic. Obviously, you can only do so much for a gunshot wound in the field. But immediately when I was shot, I was like, oh man, I know this isn't good. You know, the sensation is one that I can't really describe. It felt like getting hit by a baseball bat. But I immediately I sort of dropped to my knees and onto my face, and I was kind of in the dirt. And I remember testing my legs to make sure that they still worked, because it felt like I got hit in the back. And I was so grateful that my legs still worked, but I knew I was kind of in trouble. I was probably conscious for, I mean, time distorts itself over this long, trying to remember back, but probably about another 10, 15 minutes, at which point a couple of my Marines kind of hefted me up under their arms, took me back into an armored vehicle that we had. They patched me up as best I could. My corpsman said, hey, sir, you got to sit on it. I know it doesn't feel good, but you got to sit on it. Because the wound on my upper left butt cheek area was where all the blood was coming out. And so I sat on it, tried to put pressure on the dressing that he had applied.
That was the exit wound?
That was the exit wound, yep.
Yeah.
And then provided my CO, who had picked me up in the medevac vehicle, with the map of where we had engaged the enemy, and that's about all that I remember. At that point, I think I went into shock. They transported me to a number of different bases in Iraq, where I received a lot of critical care. Again, to Germany, and then from Germany to Bethesda, Maryland, which is where I ended up essentially waking up about 2 weeks later.
So I was going to ask you, after your shot, you pass on essentially the plans to your commanding officer, and then you don't have any memory what your next memory was, or your next clear memory.
So I was in a drug-induced coma for a couple of weeks. I have scattered memories after that point. I remember kind of coming around, and I was very out of it. My next, I don't know if this is good for your listenership or not, but one of my next lucid memories was of a male nurse applying like a salve or a balm to my groin area, because my scrotum had swelled up so much. It was like the size of a couple of Texas grapefruits, due to the amount of blood flow that had just pooled there. But he was trying to prevent them from chafing and doing whatever else they were doing. And I was kind of coming around at that point. I was like, oh man, this is not the best experience.
This is not the way I wanted to wake up.
Yeah, exactly.